All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking Arizona. That can only mean one thing. We get a visit in from Shireen Ryan from Zona Zealots. It's always a fun discussion with Shireen, and she's coming in crystal clear today. And that's always a good thing because sometimes I miss some of the witty banter when you're breaking up. So to be able to see and hear you clearly, Shireen, this is a good thing. So I know this is going to be a good time.
The stars have aligned today.
Absolutely. So we're on Facebook Live and we're also on YouTube as well. So if you've got comments and questions and you're watching us live, go right to it and we'll respond to those. But otherwise, Shireen and I will kick around the Cats a little bit here and talk about a pretty young football team. But before we get to the personnel, Shireen, Territorial Cup.
Ooh.
As soon as you started to tell me about some of the things that have been going on around the state, I instantly thought Territorial Cup. That this speaks to it perfectly when you're talking about the T-shirt wars and billboard wars and all of this. So what in the world's going on?
Well, it started in basketball with the ASU and Arizona basketball game. There was a bar in Tucson that banned all University of Arizona Wildcats gear in the bar for safety reasons. So there was an uproar about that, and we kind of laughed as Arizona fans. Well, why would we want to go into a bar that doesn't accept us? There's a ton of Wildcat fans in Phoenix, so they're just getting rid of a whole bunch of customers there, and we made sure everybody knew the bar so that no one would go to it anymore. So anyway, so that started a little bit of the stuff going on, but I think that was what happened was Dave Hickey, the AD, and the President Robbins, they got a whole bunch of welcome Kevin Sumlin to University of Arizona football billboards all over Phoenix, including one right next to ASU's football stadium. And it was a rub because ASU was trying to hire Sumlin as well. They got Herm Edwards, which a lot of people are not too sure about if that's going to work because he's doing things differently. But there's a huge, the rivalry has just been stepped up. So now that the billboards are out there, and then we had the thing with the bar and you couldn't come in with University of Arizona Wildcat gear on. Now, every year in the state of Arizona, the athletic department does a tour around Arizona in different cities. And so they planned one in Tempe on Mill Avenue, right next to ASU. And when the alumni and the students of ASU found out, they bombarded the restaurant with complaints. They didn't want the tour to stop on Mill Avenue. So this restaurant, the owner acted like he didn't know what was going on. No one told him that this was booked. And then the restaurant manager was like, oh, it really wasn't set in stone. And we were just talking and I didn't understand what they wanted to do. It was all, they just completely denied that they knew what they were doing, which was booking this tour and having all these people come through and making money. So they said, sorry, we're never, ever, ever going to have U of A at our establishment. That's never, ever. So they had to replace the location with a bar in Scottsdale. And we will never, ever go to their establishment again. So I implore all Arizona Wildcat fans to not go to Mill Avenue ever to do any partying ever again.
Wow. Taking a stand. Now, Shireen, there are college football fans in other parts of the country, especially, I would guess, especially if we venture to the South, but also in Big Ten country and other places that think, the Pac-12, they don't really care that much. They just go to the games when it's convenient and when the weather's nice, and they're out on the surf for most of September probably, and then figure out that there's a football season going on sometime in October, and they're not real passionate like we are. It doesn't mean that much to them. But this is just shows that you people just can't play nice.
Oh no, there's no playing nice. I mean, we call them scum devils instead of sun devils, and they call us pussycats instead of wildcats. But also the Bruin fans will do that. I was on a bus with a bunch of Bruin fans, and they're like, "Pussy, pussy, pussy cat." Like it doesn't stop there. But let me tell you, there's this huge push for everybody to fill the stands at Arizona with Kevin Sumlin coming in. I was in Tucson for graduation. My youngest daughter just graduated from the Eller School of Business. I have no more Wildcats attending the university, but I graduated too. So we went to the movies because we had some time to kill. And I walked up the stairs to the movie theater, and there's Coach Sumlin selling football tickets on this huge poster thing, right? And I was like, hello. And then I went and sat down in the movie theater, and there he was on the screen with Brian Jeffries announcing part of, Khalil Tate's throwing a pass. It was like, sign up for it. I've never seen this before. So it's a big, huge push. They started early, and they want to fill the stands. They have a new AD, a new president, a new coach. So and people are excited, and they're saying, I bought mine. So you can't discount the Pac-12 when it comes to football, especially if you went to a USC game. You would see 90,000 something capacity stadium full to the brink every single game. Even though they complain the most about their team, and even though that team becomes the champion, they still complain about their team. And now they don't have Darnold, so we're kind of laughing about that. Like,
all right, Shireen, I know from watching USC football that what you're saying is mostly true, but if Oregon State's in town, if some of the lesser non-conference teams are in town, I see droves of empty seats at the Coliseum.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Yeah, but still there'd be 60,000 people. It's just the Coliseum houses like almost 100,000 people.
Yeah, and USC's USC. Do you think that happens in Michigan or Ohio State or Notre Dame or Alabama?
Probably not. It's those fickle LA fans. I am in LA.
Never happens. Okay. So I got a great question for you that's going to be an even better question about a year from now. But still, since you're a personality, so this is a different conversation I have with Shireen than I have with basically anybody else I bring on here. Shireen has a pulse on the vibe of people and programs and what's going on and with teams, more so than spitting out, okay, I'm going to compare Kevin Sumlin and Rich Rod because he runs this kind of scheme, but he runs the same scheme, but he does it differently this way and that way. And he's won 57% of his games and he's won 72%. No, none of that. Yeah. Shireen is a feel for people. So how at this point would you compare Rich Rod and Kevin Sumlin just as guys that run a football program?
I think Sumlin he's got this no ego at the door type, leave your ego at the door type of thing. Like the coaches keep talking about, we're all equal, we're all part of a team. And it starts with the coaching crew. So the coaches come in and they're all like, hey, we're all in this together. They run, from what I hear from former players that were there working out for pro days, like Zach Green was telling me, it's a whole, everybody's more serious. The players are more serious about competing. There's just an air of things are more structured, I think. And the focus is different, especially for the quarterbacks, because now they're going to be calling plays instead of doing the clap and break thing. So that whole thing is changing. So everybody has to get used to that. But they also do a lot more social media. So even if the media wasn't involved too much during practices, which they always want to have more access, the program was putting out a lot more video about the practices, how they were going. The coaches are on social media more, promoting football and interacting more with the fans and with the players. So it's just an all around. I haven't seen one negative thing since Sumlin got here. Everybody's positive. The fans are positive. The coaches are positive. Sumlin kept Yates, and that's what the players wanted. So they're happy. Coach Springer has a relationship with Zona Zealots, and we adore him now. So, and they're hiring more recruiting. So they're doing a lot more recruiting and a lot heavier recruiting in states we normally weren't in. So to me, it just seems a little more organized. I haven't talked to Sumlin yet. I adored Rich Rod's love of the game. So I want to see that from Sumlin as well.
And you'll be encouraging him to use the tight ends.
Always.
Okay. Just making sure.
We have not. So I was right, because I was encouraging Rich Rod for years to use his tight ends more. He finally did it and worked. There was this short game that we didn't have before. And then we lost a bunch of games at the end of the season, and that short game disappeared. And I don't know if there was fights going on between the coaches, or all this legal stuff was happening and they knew about it. But for crying out loud, what about the short pass? It was always a bomb pass. So I think I'm hoping someone will utilize the tight ends more. And Bryce Wolma he showed that he has and Jamie Nunlison, who's another guy that I've been touting from the beginning with you. Those two guys they did really well last year, and they want to do even more this year. So I think they're going to, and coaches were very impressed with them. So they actually came out and talked about how impressed they were at the tight end. So I'm getting my way without even having to talk to the coach.
Shereen Ryan joining us from Zona Zealots. You got to join her right there for coverage of Arizona athletics across the board. Of course, we're always talking college football right here. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So when looking at the analytics, about 10 to 15% of the people that watch my videos subscribe. So I'm not going to drive you crazy with notifications. Don't worry. I'm subscribed to people on YouTube, and their notifications don't bother me. So get your settings worked out. That was my only fear, Shereen, is that I drive people crazy with all the notifications coming out. But other than that, I don't know why these college football fans that watch my channel don't want to subscribe. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a like or even a thumbs down if you want to. It makes no difference to me.
Mark is closer to the people that are like you, that he's got the people that are fans that are also experts, that are on the inside, that have all that expertise. I highly recommend you follow Mark.
Wow, I'm going to have to clip this off for a promo.
You're watching MarkRogersTV.
So you too, Shereen, here have a fan that's on the line on the chat right now. And this person isn't even an Arizona fan.
Oh.
It's Navy Thomas, who is a Nebraska guy who is always talking to me about Nebraska football, but he loves college football across the board, is always on top of college football. And he has told me over and over for months and months and months, get Shereen on more. Love watching Shereen. She does a great job. She's enthusiastic. She brings on a great vibe, and he is commenting right now saying hi. And basically Shereen can't see the live chat right now. So Navy Thomas, I am passing on your hey, and nice to hear you again. Dennis Wilson, another.
Hey, by the way, one of our writers on Zona Zealots works for the University of Nebraska. He's an Arizona Wildcat fan, but he works so he has like dual his dad, I guess, went to Nebraska, but he lives there and he works for the University of Nebraska. And I was upset with the school when they went and took one of our assistant coaches, that caused a whole waterfall of recruits to not commit to Arizona. But he's gone now, so it's funny.
Got him out of the way.
It's funny how that works, huh?
We also have Dennis Wilson commenting that another Rich Rod mess he made at another program. I don't think the program's a mess.
Yeah,
the situation was a mess. The program's in decent shape. They rebounded well to get what I would consider to be one of the 15 to 25 best coaches in the country.
Well, first of all, they recruited Khalil Tate. So they recruited some great talent. And even though no one thought none of our players would get drafted, Dane Cruikshank got drafted, and every other player is on a team right now as a free agent. So, Gerhard DeBeer, Zach Green, Nick Wilson, all these people no one thought they want them. And the team itself, the players, they went from 3-9 and embarrassed and Jacob Alsadek as well, and embarrassed to 7-6 respectable. And it could have been more. But Khalil only played 8 games in that season. And then all the turmoil at the end, I think, the bowl game and all that, I think even in the bowl game, he set some record for rushing yards you know what I'm saying? So the players are not listening to the noise. And I think these players did well last year and they're still together this year and they're mostly sophomores. So I don't think it's a mess. I think things just got straightened out in the spring and the summer the freshmen come and the freshmen are all in. So I'm excited about the future. I think the coaches are looking to next year more than this year. But as you said, Mark, the strength of schedule isn't that high. So we could have a lot of wins, a lot more wins this season.
So what I was telling Shireen before we started to record is that I have reviewed all the conference scheduling in college football outside of the Big 12. There's nothing to analyze there. Everybody plays everyone. So everybody has the same exact schedule besides playing yourself. So it's the other conferences that have decisions to make. And actually the Pac-12 has the fairest scheduling of the other 4 because there's only 12 teams and they play 9 conference games. So they only miss 2 opponents. So there's not a whole lot of difference, but there is difference. What I was pointing out to Shireen is that in the Pac-12 South, obviously, Arizona plays everyone in their division, and they play 4 of the 6 teams in the other division is the way the setup works to equal 9 conference games. And Arizona's playing the 4 worst teams from last year, meaning Oregon State, Cal, Oregon, Washington State, and missing the 2 heavyweights, Stanford and Washington. So those teams only went 12-24 in the Pac-12 last year. And flip it around to Utah, who has to play the top 4 teams. So they've got to play Stanford, Washington, Washington State, Oregon. And so those teams went 24-12. Now, this is nothing against Oregon or Arizona. They have nothing to do with it. Yeah. And who knows, if we did the research, I'm sure we would find like last year, the year before, or sometime that Arizona played the toughest schedule in the Pac-12. So it just happens that this year, based on what happened last year, the Cats have a bit of a path to some easier wins.
And still, Athlon Sports has Utah and USC above Arizona. So
look at the schedule.
So that would say that Utah is projected to have a much stronger team than Arizona. But everybody, so last season, I was probably the only media person saying they would definitely have a winning season. I felt like the players wanted it to happen. If the players are going to happen, no matter what crap that was thrown at them, and a lot was thrown at them, and the wrong play calls, which I can personally vouch for knowing exactly what play was going to be called next. Everything was better. The special teams were a little better. The kicking sucked a little bit there. They have to fix that. But things got better. And now we have these seasoned players like Michael Alatisi, who's been around. His 3rd year. He's a redshirt sophomore. And he's going to be on the front line, and he's so hungry. So we got a lot of hungry players to prove that want to prove that they aren't last year wasn't a flash in the pan. They probably should have had a better winning season. Now they have their quarterback. Brandon Dawkins has gone off and followed Rod Smith to Indiana. I believe he's a Hoosier.
Yes.
So he graduated. Congratulations, Brandon. We're going to miss you. And wish you tons of luck in Indiana. So it is Khalil, Rich Rodriguez's son, Rhett, who's listed on the depth chart as the 2nd backup quarterback. And I have to tell you, Sumlin and some of his coaches were talking about how impressed they were with how smart Rhett was. And I've met Rhett, and I've interviewed him, and he is wise beyond his years, and he knew that his dad's playbook, as a young kid. So he came up with plays on his own for his dad. And his dad always had a lot of great things to say about his son. I mean, you have to have some respect for your son, but he was right. So they were impressed by Rhett. So I'm not surprised that he would be the backup quarterback at this point.
Yeah. So when Dawkins was still the quarterback last year, lost to Houston, good football team, 19-16. That was a home game. That was the 2nd game of the season. And I'm just going along the line that you were talking about of some of the games that you could have won. Right. So that was a 19-16 game against Houston, close game at home. Then 2 weeks later, pivotal game against Utah, who was ranked in the top 25 at the time, lost 30-24 at home to Utah. Close game. We got to play both sides of it. So the game that Dawkins got hurt and Tate came in and set the record was against Colorado.
Right.
Game on the road, 45-42.
He didn't even play the whole game, and he set a record.
Yeah. So to be fair, you could have lost that game.
Could have. Yeah.
3-point win on the road. That was a close one. You took care of UCLA. I was surprised there. I got to say, I was surprised. You just wiped UCLA off the deck there. A game at Cal. That was
close, right?
Woo, 45-44 double overtime.
Yeah, that was a close game. So like when you said, you know, we're going to play Cal, and that was an easy win. No, it wasn't last year.
No,
that
not
coach, it means business over there, you know.
Now the next week, this is the game that surprised me. This is when Washington State came to town. They were top 15 in the country, and you guys took it to them, 58-37.
Yeah, and their coach was like, his head was spinning after that.
Yeah, that was your best win of the year. There's no question about that. Beating Washington State, the Utah win would have been nice, but yeah, the Washington State win by far at home. There was a lot of crazy plays in that game, a lot of huge yardage plays, and you intercepted the Washington State quarterback Luke Falk like 4 times in that game, and he actually got benched, and he was one of the best in the Pac-12, of course.
Yeah,
then
so
the USC
really stepped up in that game. The defense this year, I felt like, really stepped up their game this year.
The USC game was a really good game, a game in which they looked like a much better team and going out like 28-7, but you guys came back, made it a 1-score game. Actually, I think you tied it at 28.
Right.
And then USC just had a little bit too much.
So really wanted that win. So Tate wanted that win like there's no tomorrow. He really wants to beat USC. That is his goal, because USC, Hilton recruited him. All his buddies from Sarah High School, they end up going to USC or UCLA. So those are big wins for him, because he grew up in Inglewood. Coming back, like no one thought we would come back in that game, and we were coming back, and I think there was an interception or something that just put it in the books. But he was very emotional, and Coach Helton gave him a lot of props after that game.
So the 2 games that speak something to me about Arizona's level of play and needing to take that next step is, I'm not expecting this program right now to beat USC and Stanford and Washington, but they're on that next level. That next level is Arizona, Arizona State, Oregon, UCLA. Mm-hmm. So you lost to Oregon by 20 on the road, and you lost to Arizona State in the final game by 12. Those are the 2. So for this program to take a next step to not necessarily win the Pac-12, but be in it right to the end. And of course, if you would have beaten USC, that might have swung the whole deal. But to take that next step, you got to beat the teams on your line. So that's Utah, Oregon, Arizona State from last season.
I think it's doable. I think that problem with Oregon, it was away. I don't think we played that well away. So I think that having so this year USC is going to be at home, right? UCLA is on the road.
Yes.
And then Oregon, we're playing Oregon, right? But they should be playing here. They should be playing in Tucson, correct?
So the 2018 schedule, I believe you do play Oregon again. I'm pulling it up right now. So you're missing the 2 heavyweights. You're missing Stanford and Washington. So you do have, this is the Pac-12 schedule for Arizona. It starts out with Oregon State on the road. You've got USC at home. Then you've got Cal at home.
We have a better chance to beat USC earlier in the season, because whatever quarterback they have, they won't have that much experience.
Yeah. JT Daniels.
Yeah.
USC at home, Cal's at home. Then you go to Utah, you go to UCLA. You've got Oregon at home. You've got Colorado at home, and then you go to Washington State, and you come home for Arizona State.
So see, the Territorial Cup is going to come home to Tucson, because Arizona State's going to come to Tucson for that game. And I hate to say it, but I think having the home crowd is going to help in that game. But we also want the cutback really badly. In fact, tonight, if the Arizona baseball team beats the ASU baseball team, U of A wins the Territorial Cup for the whole entire year. So, also having Oregon at home is good. And you know what? We beat Colorado in Mile High, in a Mile High city. So if we can beat them in a Mile High city, maybe it'll be easier for us to beat them at home. I know the coach is going to be preparing for Khalil all year because he was like, wasn't he the coach? Was it Whittingham who said Whittingham, right? Is that
Yes.
I think he said something. Can somebody please stop Khalil Tate? No, that wasn't him.
That's the Utah coach, Kyle Whittingham. Colorado's Mike McIntyre.
Oh, McIntyre. Yeah, McIntyre was the one saying, can someone please stop Khalil Tate? Anybody? So, yeah, in fact, there's a part of the air show video that you can go watch right now on ktape14.com. He has a new fan site, and there's a new video his brother put together, who's a producer, called the Khalil Tate Air Show. And so everybody keeps thinking that Khalil can only rush, but he is a very efficient passer. Even though he didn't have a lot of pass plays, he was like 11 for 14 or something in the Foster Farms bowl game. So we're trying to change the narrative on Tate. He's not just a rushing quarterback. He can pass. He just needs more plays called for him and more options.
ktate14.com. If you love Khalil Tate, or even if you're just a college football fan trying to check out the best players and one of the Heisman favorites for this season, ktate14.com.
Yep.
So when I'm looking at the schedule here, Shireen, here's your formula. You have to beat Cal, Oregon State, and Colorado.
Yeah.
You have to win those three. And then most likely you lose to USC, but it's
who knows?
It's doable. It's doable at home, definitely. But most likely you lose to USC. And the rest of these games are winnable. Even the USC game's winnable. There's nobody like you don't have an Alabama in your division or Clemson that forget it. You're not winning. You could beat any of these teams.
Exactly.
But most likely USC is a loss. Most likely. But I'm going to give it at home, I'll give it a 60-40 proposition for you. But these other games, you have a fighting chance of winning these games. You got Oregon at home. UCLA's not going to be great. Washington State, you've got to go to Washington State. Could be difficult there. But they have a messy quarterback situation, unfortunately. So, man, it's you're anywhere between like 7-2 and 3-5 in the conference for me.
Yeah. So with all the returning players, they now are experienced and have seen some of these teams before. So it wasn't one of these. So, and not only that, you had all the redshirt freshmen, right? Now you got a whole bunch of redshirt freshmen that didn't play. So the options are, and they added, I think Sumlin's still out there adding players. He wants to get more size on his O-line. So I feel confident. I don't because I don't know this coach. I can't really tell you, but I know that the players are more serious and there's a new air in the locker room, according to former players.
Okay, I'm really not understanding the Pac-12 scheduling approach. You're playing the same teams from the other division you played last year. So you didn't play Stanford and Washington last year. You're not playing them this year. So it must go on some kind of 2-year rotation,
I guess.
So that's kind of odd that you would play all the same teams again, but not play Stanford and Washington 2 years in a row.
Well, we have the highest paying conference commissioner, or whatever you call him. And
he's making the most money, huh?
Yeah, and he hasn't even got his darn station on DirecTV. So nobody on the Midwest or East Coast can even watch their team. They're still very upset about that.
Now, out of conference, you've got a chance to go 3-0. You've got BYU at home. You've got Houston on the road. And then you've got Southern Utah.
Well, BYU's full of a bunch of 25-year-old players, right?
Yeah, they usually have an older team, and you lost to Houston at home last year. This time you got to go on the road, and they're usually pretty formidable, and that'll be a tough game. And
well, I'm hoping that Sumlin knows the Texas teams a little more. So maybe I mean I it's so hard to comment when you don't know the code. Like I knew I could predict a few things with Rich Rod because I knew I followed him and knew him over the years, but Sumlin's new to me. So I don't venture to guess, but I would say that because we have the quarterback returning and it's one that the players have confidence in, and he's getting better and he's learning new things, and he's got all spring, he's got all summer, and then I mean, I just think that because of that reason, our team can be pretty strong.
at first glance, I'm looking at 4-5 in the Pac-12 and 2-1 out of conference to get you to 6 wins.
You really think it's going to be 6 when last year we had 7 with the situation we have? And nobody in the conference has a returning quarterback like we do? I don't know. Okay, that's worst case.
I will break it down a little bit further in August. So we've got a long ways to go.
Worst case.
So we do have our Nebraska guy, Navy Thomas, is mentioning what I think you covered earlier. He must have missed this part of the conversation. So he says hi again, and he says thanks for overlooking the JUCO Nebraska stole from Arizona.
Yeah. Well, you guys took a lot from us last year.
All right, good stuff.
Not as much as what's his face from Oregon who's gone. What was that guy's name again? That coach, I didn't like him so.
Willie Taggart.
Oh, can you imagine? He took all those players and then left. But then Rich Rod's not at Arizona either. So, but they would have had Sumlin. That's very interesting.
So you've got a young team.
Yeah.
You were just looking at the roster and looking at the depth chart, so you're excited about that.
I'm excited about Shun Brown having more of and Cedric Peterson having more of a shot. JJ Taylor is going to be our star running back because Wilson's gone, Zach Green's gone. Tony Ellison's going to get more of a shot. So we got on the defense Tony Fields, Scotty Young, and Colin Schuler, and they got award. 2 of the 3 got awards last year, like as freshmen. True freshmen. So a lot of exciting things going on with that.
The recruiting last year was 78th in the country, number 8 in the that's this season, 2019 recruiting class, and those numbers don't mean anything. So throw those away. 2018, 11th in the Pac-12, 58th in the country. Obviously had to deal with the whole Rich Rod situation. 3 of those guys have enrolled early. But you're hearing some good things.
Yeah, there's offers are going out left and right, and we're recruiting more in Arizona. And what you see is Arizona coaches high school coaches throughout the state are posting on social media thanking the coaches for coming and paying attention to them. So there's an all-out effort to recruit local talent, as well as Texas. Where they're in Texas a lot. And they're hiring a new position, we hear, or they already have, to help with recruiting. So they're really focused on recruiting. But as soon as Sumlin got here, he was out recruiting. So the coaches are they're all using their ties in California and Arizona and Texas and other places. And hopefully the Polynesian. I know Rich Rod said the Polynesian camp he had was really well, and he thinks that they needed a few more of those. So hopefully we can attract that talent as well.
That's what it's all about, recruiting. It's the lifeblood. That's what you need to do.
And I don't think we lost many commits either. Sumlin talked to the guys, and I think we kept our commits for the most part.
Kind of in a tough spot. The Arizona high school football is not great from what I understand, and the surrounding states not great. You got to go to California. You got to go to Texas. And you've got to deal with all those schools and with Arizona State in your backyard fighting for the best players in the state.
Well, either you want the Herm Edwards show or you want the proven Kevin Sumlin coaching staff. Well,
That's one way to
we all
sell
know
it.
which school is you have a better experience at. We all know it's in Tucson. I can tell you from personal experience, my children are very upset when they graduate because they don't want to leave. That's how bad it is.
That's very cool. I don't think a lot of people want to leave college, regardless of where they go.
But they return. So I mean, at graduation, President Robbins asked the entire new alumni, like they have this massive graduation with fireworks and music and all kinds of stuff in the football stadium. He asked them to return for the first game and for homecoming. He wants them to continue to support Arizona football. So I never heard that at a graduation.
Very cool. Shireen Ryan and her unique blend of psychology and football and fun and all sorts of stuff. Join her on Zona Zealots. And also check out ktate14.com.
ktate14.com. And then if you're just a general sports fan, if you could subscribe to my In the Front Row show, I interview football players as well as basketball players on all levels. And we just recently did a Meta World Peace celebrity game, which was kind of a fun video. So go subscribe to In the Front Row. And on Twitter, I'm at Sports Crazy with 2 E's, as well as at Zona Zealots. And we really, our social media on Facebook, we're on Instagram as well, Zona Zealots FS, fan-sided, and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We go a little farther than other sites, and we took on Dick Vitale to the point where he was fighting with us on Twitter. So we're not just any site to follow. We really engage with you. So engage with us online. We really enjoy it.
You're way ahead of me. I'm just trying to keep up with YouTube and a little bit of Facebook and Twitter. And I know I need to get Instagram going and Snapchat and all this other stuff that gets thrown in my face that I should be doing. And people tell me all the time. But I will figure it out.
Yeah,
all right.
I have gotten endorsed by many players that I've bumped into have all said that the only site they read is Zona Zealots. And probably because we're have a positive slant. We're not out to tear apart the athlete. So that's what you're getting from me.
Love the positive vibe. Shireen Ryan, Zona Zealots, please join her there. And it's ktate14.com as well.
That's right.
Thanks, Shireen. You have a great day. If you joined us on Facebook, I appreciate it. Hopefully I got to the comments and got to the waves and so forth and so on, and on YouTube as well. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel where I bring on the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry. Shireen, you have a great weekend.
You too. Bear down, everybody. Bear down and rise up.